Alright, so what am I on today? What are you on about today? I'll tell you what I'm on about today. I'm gonna continue to be on about this Mixolydian node here, and then we're doing the lean back chord here, and so I'm doing the Nashville the Nashville numbers again, which I am advocating for in my I have a course on it, advocating for this common sense, not from a master musician, but from an accountant trying to bring in some Pythagoras numbers back into the game here. Pythagoras would be ashamed at the deviation, the movement away from the numerical values, the spreadsheet in the sky of music. If you try to hear it like in its Platonic form, like not with your ears, but with your like eyes to visualize it, then it's a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet. That's the Platonic form of music. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. So we have a spread. So that's how we do it here. We mimic that like a triangle on a chalkboard. We mimic it with the most proper way that we can, as perfection as we can here with nice numbers and colors. Okay, so I'm going to keep on going on with Nashville number 5, which is the Mixolydian node, which happens to be in the collection of notes around the key of C, which is the one we're working on, a G note, and then I built the triad last time from here, and so I'm going to continue on the 9, 11, and 13. And then on the top of the screen, we have all the information, one half giving you the point information, which once again is the Nashville number, the Nashville abbreviated letter that I'm giving, the 7 letters, and then it's going to give you the note number, and then the note letter, and then the second half is going to give you the distance away from the focal point that we are on, which is Nashville number 5 in terms of half steps, followed by what I'm calling the modal point from a letter standpoint, and in this case it's going to be an X for Mixolydian, and then it's going to give you the modal half steps away from that point, and then it's going to give you finally the scale or the interval terminology. Okay, but I'm going to try to do it as clean as possible with this worksheet and just kind of keep that stuff in my mind, because I think that the actual Nashville number points is the thing that we lose because of the scale, because of the use of scale degrees, which makes us renumber everything in such a way that is inefficient. It's inefficient to do that from a practical, plain standpoint, particularly if you're interested in improvisation, because it messes up the whole way you'd want to think about it from an optimal standpoint, and that's what I feel like, and I think it's obvious. I think that's obvious, but that's what I practice. That's what I practice. Okay. So let's do the joke first. Let's try a joke. I've been doing, what did I do last time? I'm still on this joke thing where like, oh, I'm back to the Kings riots thing. No Kings riots, or not riots. They were protests. I don't know whatever. But I was trying to. That's the thing that was on my mind, and the thing, like I got another idea about this phrases which are confusing people, because you got the problem is you get these deconstructivists in there, and they don't know what anything means anymore, you know, because they try to mess up the meaning. So if you give them like an idiom or like a euphemism or something like that, they don't know what you're talking about. You know, you don't know what they're gonna do, because they've deconstructed the whole language to the point that they don't even know what up is and down anymore. You know, so so I think this is part of our problem right now. Is you got these people that don't know how to communicate. They're like seriously Tower of Babel situation here. They're just like, you'd think it'd be clear because it's a common turn of phrase, but no, they've deconstructed it so that it doesn't make any sense anymore. So for example, here's what I'm talking about. I was talking about this yesterday with don't put your eggs in one basket. And instead of having multiple baskets and diversifying, they dump the basket on the floor, right? That's what I see. This is the kind of thing. That's the problem. You know, they should know the phrase. They need to know the history of how, like we think about things and like stories and stuff. But they deconstructed all the stories, so now they're kind of lost. Okay, that's my theory. So, you ever notice how the Democrats' protest strategy looks like a UFC fighter who read one blog post on fighting and then decided to improvise? So that's what the King's Rally is out there. They seem to be like improvising. They saw like a clip of like how it was done in the 60s or something, and now they're out there like kind of doing a faint image of it, and it's like, and that's kind of like what it feels like to me. I don't know if I'm so it's like if from our boxing analogy, right? They don't jab, they don't clinch, they wobble around in an inflatable chicken suit doing an Oktoberfest chicken dance while yelling, "He's a king, squawk squawk." I mean, I don't know how effective that's going to be. I'm not sure. That's as if calling someone a monarch is the ultimate combo move. Yeah, that's really going to rock the democratically elected president. I don't know if that's going to. It doesn't seem. So it's like a chicken yelling "No kings" is kind of like the phrase "kick his butt." You know, this is where it comes in. Like kick his butt. You kind of know what that means if someone says they're going to kick that guy's butt or something like that. But again, I think they've kind of messed it up, thinking that the actual strategy that they're going to do when they get into the ring is try to actually kick the guy in the butt, which isn't really effective. That's actually not a really effective strategy if you kick the guy in the butt and they hit you in the face, right? That's not going to work. So you know, I've heard that phrase all my life. I kind of get it. But after watching the UFC fights for research, obviously, I realized something. Kicking someone's butt doesn't actually win the fight. I don't think I've ever seen a fight where someone gets knocked out because they were kicked in the butt. So it just looks sad and pathetic, while also leaving you open to getting knocked out. That's what seems to happen. So the match is usually won by someone kicks the other guy in the face, not in the butt, right? That's what. So which. And again, I know it's just a phrase. It's just a phrase, right? Like it's just an idiom. But these people have deconstructed. See what I mean? They've deconstructed it, so they think it's actually a strategy because they don't know any of the idioms anymore. So this, which will be really metaphorically. I'm talking metaphorically here as we apply it to the protests, to the No Kings protests, of course. We're talking about analogies here, not a call to arms for emotional support anarchists in yoga pants. We always have to point that out, that we're not trying to be violent here, because again, it's obvious, but for those wild gun-toting progressives out there that want to shoot everyone, you gotta clarify. They get confused, right? It's a metaphor. So you know they're wearing the baggy blow-up suits for the same reason looters wore baggy pants back in the day, probably still do. You know, you got to steal stuff with the baggy pants. They're hiding things in the baggy pants. Just the same, I suspect that they're setting this thing up with these blow-up costumes for the same dang reason, man. Pat down the puffy frog, I'm telling you. Pat down the frog. Honestly. Instead of you got your butt kicked, the phrase should be something more like you got your face kicked so that people don't get confused. You feel like accuracy over euphemism is important when dealing with deconstructivists these days. You got to be accurate. So maybe it started with someone's face that got hit so hard that his cheeks puffed up and it looked like, yes, butt cheeks, right? But still, that people are confused. We don't know the etymology anymore. So you have to be more clear. Language is weird like that. However, if you're ever in the actual fighter's corner ready to give some advice, don't tell him to kick the guy's butt. That's just going to confuse him. Especially since, you're dealing with a guy that possibly got hit in the face a few times in the ring, right? You don't want to confuse the people anymore. Honestly, it's like telling Joe Biden to go out there and kick someone's butt. It's not going to go well. You got to be specific. So after taking a few shots to the head, his rational thought is probably only marginally better than President Biden on his best day back in 1756 when President Biden was still trying to finish his first term as colonial governor of Delaware, for crying out loud. No, you got to be specific. You got to be like the dude telegraphs his hook, counter with a kick to the face. The plan should not be kick the dude's butt, but knock him on it, for crying out loud. Specific advice is the best advice, especially when dealing with a punch-drunk guy. So like Rocky's trainer. If you see three of them out there, hit the one in the middle. Notice how specific that is. If you see three of them out there, hit the one in the middle, right? There's no negotiation. You're not going to right? You're not like, which one should I do, an eeny, meeny, miny, mo? No, hit the one in the middle. Which brings us to the chicken suit tactic. Marching down Main Street in inflatable animals because you got $5 stipend and a memo about optics. That's worse than a UF fighter strategy of kicking the other guy in the butt. At least the fighter in the octagon is trying to do something. Some progressive in a frog costume chanting slogans looks like they wandered off the kids' party and is even less effective. So if your grand plan is defend democracy, is to embarrass yourself for TikTok clips, congratulations, you've turned protest into paid entertainment. That's not a movement building, that's auditioning for community theater. Meanwhile, the people we're supposed to persuade are watching and thinking, that's the best you've got? No, thank you. No, thank you. If you actually want to win, not just trend for an afternoon, stop choosing choreographs over competence. Stop electing spectacle as strategy. Aim for substance. Policy that works. Arguments that land. A message that doesn't look like it was written by someone who thinks PR equals policy and any attention is good attention. We've disproved that. All the like the Bud Light stuff and all that kind of stuff has disproved any attention is good attention. That's bad marketing. And for the love of common sense, if someone hands you a chicken suit, check with your PR team. And if your PR team gave you the chicken suit, tell them, like a real boss, you're fired. Embarrassing yourself in public isn't activism. It's pantomime. Pantomime doesn't win elections if you don't have media monopoly, which you have lost. That would have worked. If you had media monopoly, they would have praised these riots as like we're taking down, fascism, guy worse than Hitler. They would have painted it that way and it would have worked. Notice it didn't work. I'm not sure the spin that they're trying to put on this right now is basically, look, at least they didn't kill anyone. That's the amount of sway that the media has. They used to be able to say, look, they're out there fighting injustice against literally Hitler. Now they're just saying, look, at least no one died, right? Do you see how much power and influence they've lost, right? Going forward, the winning strategy is going to be actual truth, right? Truth isn't just going to be something that you should do morally. It's actually going to be a winning strategy if you have a non-corrupted or monopoly media. That's the general idea. So stop wobbling and start punching with purpose, which of course presumes you need to find a purpose. Find a freaking purpose, you loons. Marketing's not going to do it. Monopoly media is not going to do it. Find a purpose. That's the rant. It was a little too long this time. I tried to improvise a little bit. I don't know. felt like it was too much. But I wrote a song about it. Let's see what the song's got.
You ever notice how the protest plan looks like parody? Like a fighter who read one blog post and called it strategy. They don't jab, they don't clinch, they wobble on parade in inflatable suits, thinking hashtags make the grade. They shout dramatic nonsense, flapping like a show, like calling someone royal is the final blow. The spectacle's a mirror, it only shows one thing. You look ridiculous if you think that noise will win. Stop wobbling, start punching with purpose. Don't trade your backbone for a circus. If you wanna move a mountain, don't dance on the stage. Bring a plan, bring a voice, bring something that'll last the age. Kick his butt, they say, but that won't win the fight. It's not the butt that matters, it's the jaw that bites. I've seen enough to know if you flail, you fall. It's focus and time, and that's settled it all. They wear those blow-up suits to hide the lack of thought. Baggy and puffy like plans they forgot. Pat down the frog, the clown, the mime. You'll find empty slogans every time. Stop wobbling, start punching with purpose. Don't trade your backbone for a circus. If you wanna move a mountain, don't dance on the stage. Bring a plan, bring a voice, bring something that'll last the age. Be specific, don't shout vague lines at the sky. If you telegraph the hook, you counter, don't just try. Hit the one in the middle, the trainer had it right. No glory in the costume if you never learn to fight. If your grand plan is viral clips and self-made fame, you've traded real change for a hashtag name. If someone hands you feathers, maybe check who's paying. And if your team chose the suits, change the staging. Stop wobbling, start punching with purpose. Turn down the noise and bring some service. We don't need 1,000 clowns to make a point. We need the work, the will, the joint. So stop wobbling and start punching with purpose. Find a cause, find a plan, find a way that's worth us. Take off the costumes, put on the work. Let your hands do the talk. Stop wobbling, start punching, and walk that walk.
Alright. That's enough of that. Let's see. Feel like I was a little too long. I didn't think it was a longer one. I didn't cut it down into the little chunks. I kind of rushed that one. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Whatever, dude. All right. So we're 12th fret. I'm on this one. All right. Okay, so I'm on. So we're gonna say we've built the triad before, which was the Mixolydian, and then we're calling it. I'm calling it, labeling it a lean back chord because I'm gonna say that the fourth modal half step or fifth scale degree is in this quadrant, even though it's actually on the axis here, because it would be in this quadrant if it weren't for this fault line which got pushed up. So in other words, if I saw it up here, it would be like this, and then it would be like that. But because we crossed this fault line, it got pushed up and it looks like that. So I'm still going to call it a lean back chord even though it's right there. And so then I'm going to say, okay, So that's going to be the zero modal half step or first scale degree, and the fourth modal half step, and the second modal half step or third scale degree, and then we pick in the fourth modal half step or fifth scale degree, which I'm going to be looking at down here, and so that's going to be our baseline shape that we were working on before. So that would be a G major, if you want to call it that. I'd rather call it a three-note triad, a three-note Mixolydian triad, because that's more specific. Once I add the next one, which will be the 7, which is the one that's out of whack, the one that's going to be different from the Ionian, the major scale. So if I add the 7, I can go 2 modal half steps up from here, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be the 4 Lydian. There's one out here. There's one over here, so you can kind of drop. I mean, I think it's like the easiest way to do it is to kind of drop this one and toggle between those two, maybe. What was I doing yesterday? So you get that bluesy 7th in there, minor 7th. 10 note away distance instead of an 11 note away distance, which would be a major 7, even though we're on the major mode of the Mixolydian, Nashville number 5. All right, so let's say so now I'm going to add the next one, which is the 9. So I could do that by saying we're just going to go up from Nashville number 4 to 4, 5, 6. It would be 6, which is the Aeolian. So we have one here. So maybe if I was starting on this normal shape, I would drop like the 5, the fourth modal half step, 5th scale degree, which is Nashville number 7, which happens to be a B, and pick up the Aeolian, which is going to be Nashville number 6, and it happens to be in the collection of notes around the key of C and A. All right, so let's just look at those 3. What would I call that? Well, from the perspective of the Nashville number 5, the Mixolydian node, you'd call it some kind of normal naming convention would be a G, like a G9, if you had this one with it as well, right? Because if you had the one that's different, the seventh, then it would be just like a G9. But in this case, I dropped that one, so you could still call it, I guess, a G major 9. If you drop that one, but I'm still going to call it that because it's off of the Mixolydian. But yeah, I'd rather call it something just off the Mixolydian, which would mean that it would be what are we on? A 5-note a 5-note Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian chord, and then I just want to make sure that I pick the end points, which happens to be Nashville number 5 and 6, or the Mixolydian and Aeolian node, and then you can drop the ones in the middle, and I'll still call it that chord to not be too specific on it, to name it by the endpoint. Or I can say that it's going to be the Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian, and then it's going to be 8 modal half steps, because that's the distance to get to the last point, or 8 divided by 2 would be 4 modal whole steps. So Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian 4 modal whole step chord, or from end point, I can call it a Nashville 5-6 modal range chord, or Mixolydian Aeolian modal range chord, or from a color system, a magenta red modal range chord. All right. So if I add that 9 happens to be, how far away is it? It's a major 9 away. It's a major 9, which has a distance of 2, a local distance of 2, meaning it's equivalent to the major second. So it'd be a local distance of 2. So this would be 5 notes as we cross the fault line, 4, 3, 2. So it has a local distance of 2 in the clockwise direction, which, although shouldn't be as tensiony if it was 1 note away, like a minor second, it's still kind of tensiony. That's the same distance on the 9, which is equivalent to the second scale degree, as every other mode, except when you go off of the 7 or the 3, meaning Nashville number 7, Locrian, or Nashville number 3, Phrygian. Those are the only 2 that land you in the ocean if you go 1 modal half step up, because those are the half steps. If you think about an absolute system where you keep the numbers the same, you're always going to have a half step going from 3 to 4 and 7 to 1. You don't have to rememorize where the half steps are because we're going to keep the numbers the same. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Okay, so now we're going to say... So that 6 shouldn't cause any problems. I mean, it's pretty close to the root, but it's not like a 6-note distance away. It's not too close to any of the others. Like it's a solid distance here, and so that's not a problem. 5-note away, and so that should be pretty pleasant. And then I can toggle on to the 7 down here if I was to do that. So I'm borrowing this off and then just toggling with the pinky. You can also pick up that Nashville number 1. That's going to be tensiony. That Nashville number, well, no, it should be. Okay. What if I did it this way? Kind of trying to noodle around with that shape. I'm not as familiar with noodling around there. All right, so let's try. So what if I added another one up? I have one up here. So obviously I could just put the 2 up top. I'm still going to call it a lean back shape because this one is I'm technically saying it's in the quadrant back here, and that's the second modal half step or third scale degree. So I could just bar that. Alright. Or what if I want to keep this one down here? My normal shape would be like this. And then I could reach up there. Muy interesante. All right, let's try another one. So I'm going to say 9. Let's go add the 11. So the 11 is equivalent to the 4. So if I left off on Nashville number 6, I can just go 2 more up from there. 6 would go 7, and then around the horn to 1. So I'm looking for the Nashville number 1, Ionian, which in the collection of notes around the key of C happens to be the C. All right, so then I know that if I add the 11, it's 10 modal half steps away, or the local distance would be equivalent to the third modal half step fourth scale degree, meaning it's going to be a local distance of 3 modal half steps up from Nashville number 5, the point we're measuring from. So it'd be 5, 6, 7, and then around the horn to 1. 5, 6, 7, 1. Ionian. Another way to get there. We can also say, well, if it's going to be the 11th that we're building off of a Mixolydian node, I mean, if it's of a Mixolydian node, then it should have a local distance of 5 notes away. It should be 5 notes away, and that's a solid distance that is there on all of the if you go 5 notes away from any of the 7 nodes, you will typically hit a continent, except for the Lydian. The Lydian's the only one that doesn't have that, which is weird. See, you can't, there's not one, like every other one. That's why these double stops work. I was thinking about this. Let me just mull that over a little bit more. Well, let me just mull this over for a second, because I was thinking about this. Because these double stops, like for example, if this was up here, then of course these double stops work all the way across. So you've got the pound, obviously you have, this seems obvious, but I'm, bear with. Sometimes, some things are obvious more to some people than others. So like, right, I mean, if I said, this is on the 10th fret, let's bring it back to like this one, right? So like this G, I have a power chord here. That's going to be the 7 note away perfect fifth, and then of course I have this one. So those are the 2 most common distances. Those are the 2 most common distances on if you go off of any mode. 5 notes away and 7 notes away. And they're the most stable sounds. And so this distance of 5 notes away, that means this double stop should work on every node, meaning like if I'm on this one, works, 5 note away distance, double stop works here, 5 note away distance. The only time it doesn't work is on the Lydian, because it has the augmented fourth gets pushed out there. Every other one, the double stop works. Double stop works. Double stop works off of the Aeolian. Double stop works off of the Locrian. Double stop works off of the Ionian. Double stop works off of the Dorian, the Phrygian, and then we're back to the crazy one. But down here, so that same thing works down here, of course, but now, like, you might just memorize this shape but not realize that it's the same thing this way because this tectonic plate got shifted up. So that means that this shape, like from here to here, should work. It seems wonky that that would work because that shape looks like it would be a 6 note away. Like if that shape was up here, that would be the tritone. That would be the thing you stay away from all the time unless you want a tensiony sound on purpose. So, but down here, it's a solid distance of the 5 note away distance that works every time. So that's kind of interesting. So in other words, if I pull that shape back to here, it doesn't work there because that's the crazy Lydian, and it got pushed up to here, and that would be the tritone distance, but it does work back here. So if I want that same kind of double stop thing on these two strings, only these two strings, it's back to normal when you get down to these two strings, but only on these two strings you've got the double stop looks like that. To the Dorian, the double stop looks like that. I feel like I got messed up. Dorian, Phrygian. I think I was in the wrong spot for a second there, sorry about that. But if I go back to the Ionian, the double stop looks like that. If I go to even the Locrian has that same distance of a 5 note distance. It doesn't have the 7 note distance. And then back to the Ionian, or the Aeolian, minor scale, has that distance. And then, of course, open. So that's kind of like, I hadn't really mulled that over. Like, that seems obvious. It is obvious, I guess, but if you just learn the shape, you're just going to be like, oh, there's this weird shape that does it like this down here, and that's because of the kink in the tuning. But it's useful to be able to say, oh, that's that 5 note distance, because then you're like, oh, wait a sec, that means that this shape should work almost everywhere. This shape works everywhere except here. So, again, seems obvious, but I bet a lot of people haven't really thought that through. I hadn't really thought that through. So, I doubt I'm the only one. Don't try to say like I'm the only one. Okay, anyways. So let's try to say that we have this here, here, and here, but now let's bring this one up here maybe. Okay. So that would be then, what would I call that? Well, if we had all the notes, it would be a G, it would just be like a G11. But if I included the funny distance one that's out of whack, which was the 6 note away 7th scale degree, which we're dropping at the moment. But but then I'm going to say if I measured it from the Nashville number 5 or the Mixolydian node, I could just say it's a Nashville number 5 Mixolydian node 6-note chord. And then you just drop the ones in the middle, make sure you pick the ones up on the end, which happens to be, in this case, the 5 and the 1, Mixolydian Ionian, which in note terms happens to be a G and a C. So then, or I can say it's going to be a Mixolydian 10 modal whole step chord, or 10 divided by 2 is 5 modal half steps. So I can say it's going to be a Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian 5 modal whole step chord, or I can call it by end points. You're just going to go to Nashville number 5-1 modal range chord, or Mixolydian Aeolian modal range chord from a color system magenta to yellow-green modal range chord. All right. So. Wait a second, that's not right. That's kind of pretty. That's so nice and pretty for a Mixolydian, because I don't have that. It doesn't get muddy because I don't have that 7 in there. So it sounds, it's basically a major, very pleasant majory sound. Because I don't have the Nashville number 4, which would muddy it up. Because you get that clash between, because you get the LL in there. So if I was to throw one in to the mix. thinking. Okay. Okay. Let's try to add. Let's just move on to the 13. So we're gonna add the 13. We're gonna add 13. So I could just go from 1, 2, 3. So that's gonna be Nashville number 3 or the Phrygian. Phrygian. All right. So I have one. I could drop this one and just pick the one up down here, but then I'd have to drop the Nashville number 2, which is the fourth modal half step or fifth scale degree. Now, if I just play these 3, you would think it would be a B minor, which it is, but we're thinking of it from the standpoint of the Mixolydian node there. So in any case, let's analyze it. We're going to say, okay, if we're adding the 13 is equivalent to the 6. The 13 has 12 modal half steps, and the 6th has 5 modal half steps. So from a local distance, it's going to be a node that's 5 modal half steps up from the node we're measuring from, which is Nashville number 5, Mixolydian. 5 plus 5 is 10, but that's over the number of 7 because we only have 7 modes, so we got to go around the clock, around the circle by taking 10 minus 7. 7, 8, 9, 10 is 3. So once again, that gets us to the 3 Nashville number, which happens to be Mixolydian and is an F note in the collection of notes around the key of C. All right, so then we can say that the distance to get to a 12th modal half step 13th scale degree from the Mixolydian node, the local distance of a 6th 5th modal half step 6th scale degree would be 9 notes away because it's a major distance as opposed to a minor distance. 9 note away distance happens to be something that will get you on a continent from all of the major modes as well as one of the minor modes, which is the Dorian. The Dorian went soft with that minor distance, major distance on the 9th. It tries to be cool to the majors because he doesn't want to be kicked out of the club entirely. He tries to like say, look, I'm still having major 9, so don't shun me. So, you wussy. Okay, no, we're gonna say that they have so 9 away. So how would I count that out? So it would be 5 notes between the strings, 10, and then back to 9. So, okay, so that makes sense because if I was up here, normally the 9 would be back here, so it would look like that, but we're measuring across the fault line, which is, there's only one fault line right here, this whole continent moved up. So if it was just measuring between these 2 strings, it would be the same, but if we're crossing the fault line, then the whole thing is gonna shift. So it would be measuring back here like that, but then it shifted up that way. Okay. So what would I call that? Well, if I had all the notes, it would just be like the G. The Nashville number 5 happens to be in the collection of notes around the key of C, a G. So it would be a G13 instead of a G major 13 if we were going to add the interval that's a problem, which is the 6 modal half step 7th, which happens to be in the collection of notes around the key of C, the F, which is the Lydian. But if I measure it by modal point, I would just call it a Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian 7-note chord, but you drop all the ones in the middle, just taking every other note, picking the ones up on the end, which happens to be Nashville number 5 and a 3, Nashville number 3, which is the Mixolydian Phrygian, or you can say it's going to be a Nashville number 5, and then the distance to the last note is 12 modal half steps. So Nashville number 5, Mixolydian 12 modal half step, or 12 divided by 2 is 6 modal whole steps. So Nashville number 5 or Mixolydian 6 modal whole step chord, or you can name it by end point, which happens to be Nashville number 5-3 modal range chord is what I would call it, or Mixolydian Phrygian modal range chord, or from a color system, magenta to sky blue modal range chord. That's what I would call it. all those ways are better than what they normally call it, by the way. Okay, so I can add the 1 over here, which is the 8th modal half step 9th scale degree. Was that? Is that right? Did I get that right? Oh man, I can't remember. So anyway, or I can put another root on top. So that distance should be pretty nice, pretty pleasant, majory soundy distance. Doesn't really clash with anything. It does kind of, well, no, it doesn't clash with anything. It's doing its thing. It's a major distance. Should be pleasant. So let's what if I find another one? I can put it up here. Maybe I can grab this like that. Do it that way. My normal shape would be like this. But now I'm going to do it this way. See if I can reach up to the 14, 12, 13, 14 fret like that. It's hard because it's hard to squeeze my fingers in there, so maybe I drop the 5, the 5th modal half, maybe I drop the 4th modal half step 5th scale degree, which is Nashville number 7, a B note in the collection of notes around the key of C. It's kind of hard to do because I'm running into I don't have a cutout, so it's a little wonky for me. Oh, you're blaming the cutout? Yes, I'm blaming the cutout. It's a legitimate grievance. The cutout is blocking me. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm just gonna noodle around for a bit. Next time we're gonna I'll go back to this one, which is the major, which should be easy from a number system because that means that our Nashville numbers will match the scale degrees. So that's why the major should be the easiest from a normal number standpoint. Trying to get my, like, what do they call it? Percussion sound.
Thank you.